When a handful of students decided to express an opinion on a university campus bulletin board in Hong Kong, they never imagined the backlash that would follow. What began with a few posters emblazoned with a radical idea that Hong Kong should split with China and become independent, eventually engulfed the entire political and academic establishment in the latest clash over shrinking freedoms in the semi-autonomous city. Student representatives at the Chinese University of Hong Kong faced off last month with mainland classmates who screamed their opposition to the political signs and attempted to cover them, while middle-aged pro-China protesters shouted they were nothing more than British dogs. In response to the three-week confrontation, the heads of all 10 universities in Hong Kong penned a joint statement saying freedom of expression is not absolute and described calls for independence as abuses. During an interview at the school's Benjamin Franklin Center, named after the American revolutionary who advocated for independence from the UK, the president of the student union, 20-year-old Justin O, said universities are one of the last fortresses for defending ideas. They are supposed to be open for all kinds of opinions no matter what you believe. Absolute obedience to authority does not help society, so it's important we maintain freedom of speech at the university. Student union president Justin O. Absolute obedience to authority does not help society, so it's important we maintain freedom of speech at the university. One of the signatories of the letter condemning the students was Peter Matheson, the current vice-chancellor of the University of Hong Kong, who is due to take the same post at the University of Edinburgh next year. Chinese university's vice-chancellor said any banners or posters advocating independence would be removed. The row marks the latest example of Beijing's creeping influence in the former British colony, and the confrontation quickly spread beyond the borders of academia. The city's chief executive, Carrie Lam, said there is no room for any discussion on the independence of Hong Kong and backed university leadership in its plan to tear down independence posters. Her comments echoed a speech by China's President Xi Jinping, who said during a visit in July any challenge to Beijing's sovereignty over the city crosses a red line. Junius Ho, an MP in the city's legislature, said pro-independence activists should be killed mercilessly at a rally condemning the movement, while a former education secretary and current member for the University of Hong Kong's governing council called them losers. Amid the swift backlash, students at universities in Hong Kong fear basic freedoms are under attack and expect academic freedom will only deteriorate. Whether you support independence or not, you have to support freedom of speech, said Thomas Lee, 24, the student union secretary at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. We have to fight back, we have to stand up, we can't just accept this silently. Lee quoted the poem First They Came, by the German pastor Martin Niemöller, which describes the failure of ordinary Germans to act in the face of Nazi persecution. Lee and O said they do not support independence, but both believe it is an option that deserves to be discussed and debated. Hong Kong has a small but increasingly vocal independence movement that has become more pronounced in the wake of 11 weeks of street protests in 2014. Those demonstrations, dubbed the Umbrella Movement, ultimately failed to secure any concessions from the government on political reform. An opinion poll published in June showed a little over 11% supported eventual independence for Hong Kong. The same study found people in Hong Kong overwhelmingly oppose being directly governed by China. Mainland Chinese students studying in Hong Kong have taken a hard line against their fellow classmate who they claim are proposing ideas that are illegal and dangerous. Hong Kong will always be a part of China and it's offensive to try to tear our country apart, said a mainland student who would only give his name as Billy. Hong Kong people need better political education, they should support the country and the Communist Party. Meanwhile, professors worry apparatchiks will one day dictate what can and cannot be taught in their classrooms. There is real fear that the government will use the talk of independence to restrict academic freedoms on campus more broadly, said Willie Lam, a politics professor at the Chinese University. Things will definitely get worse. Hong Kong's leaders have been told by the Chinese government to crack down on what Beijing sees as threats to national security, which means incriminating any talk of Hong Kong independence. The campus has become a venue for cultural revolution-style political struggle, he added, referring to a decade of political upheaval in China starting in 1966. Lam warned crackdowns on political speech would only exacerbate tensions between the authorities and the city's youth, already increasingly radical after years of government failures to address their concerns. For Hong Kong students graduating in a city with astronomical rents and shrinking job prospects, change feels necessary. The current system isn't working right now, Lee said. We have to discuss alternatives.